rules of the road just changed, and most drivers don't even know it yet. Right now, across the United States, new driving laws are quietly taking effect in March 2026, and state DMV offices are not sending out reminder letters. That means millions of licensed drivers are already behind the wheel breaking updated traffic laws without realizing it. We're talking real changes, from revised speed limit enforcement zones, updated right-of-way rules at intersections, stricter phone and distraction penalties, and in several states, new license renewal requirements specifically affecting drivers over 65. Some of these changes carry fines starting at $250 on your very first offense. Others could put your license renewal at serious risk. If you got your license years ago and haven't reviewed the latest federal and state highway updates, you could be legally vulnerable today, right now, on roads you've driven your entire life. This video breaks down every major change, state by state, in plain English, so you stay legal, stay safe, and stay confidently behind the wheel. So let's get straight into it, because this is information you genuinely need before you back out of your driveway again. The United States Department of Transportation, along with individual state legislatures, has been rolling out a series of updated driving regulations that officially take full effect in March 2026. And here's what makes this particularly important. Many of these changes were passed quietly through state assemblies without major media coverage. The evening news didn't run a special segment. Your local paper probably didn't put it on the front page. But these laws are real. They are active, and law enforcement officers across the country have already been briefed and trained on enforcing them starting this month. Now, the first thing people always ask is, why are they changing the laws now? And that's actually a really fair question. The answer comes down to three major factors that have been building for years. First, traffic fatality rates in the United States climbed significantly between 2020 and 2024, with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reporting tens of thousands of deaths annually on American roads. Second, vehicle technology has changed dramatically. Cars today are faster, heavier in some cases due to electric vehicle battery systems, and equipped with features that drivers sometimes over-rely on, like lane assist and automatic braking. Third, distracted driving has reached what federal safety officials are now calling a national crisis level. All three of these factors pushed lawmakers to act, and what came out of that process is a new wave of regulations that every driver needs to understand. Let's talk about speed limits first, because this is where a lot of drivers are going to get caught off guard. Several states, including California, Texas, Florida, Illinois, and New York have revised how speed limit enforcement works in specific zones. It's not just about the posted number on the sign anymore. What's changed is the introduction of what officials are calling contextual speed enforcement. This means that even if you are driving at or slightly below the posted speed limit, you can still be cited if road conditions, weather, traffic density, or visibility make your speed unsafe for that particular moment. Officers now have broader legal authority to issue citations based on conditions rather than just the number on the sign. This is a significant shift from how speed law has traditionally been enforced in America, and it's going to catch a lot of experienced drivers by surprise. And speaking of being caught by surprise, let's talk about intersection laws, because the right-of-way rules that many of us learned decades ago have been updated in meaningful ways. One of the biggest changes involves pedestrian crosswalks at uncontrolled intersections. Those are intersections without traffic lights or stop signs. In the past, laws varied significantly by state about when a driver was required to stop for pedestrians. As of March 2026, a federal guideline now strongly encourages all states to adopt a full stop requirement anytime a pedestrian is within one full lane of your side of the road at a crosswalk. Several states have already made this mandatory, not just recommended. What this means practically is that if you see someone standing on the curb near a crosswalk, even if they haven't stepped into the street yet, you may be legally required to stop and wait. Failing to do so can result in fines ranging from $150 to $500 depending on the state, and in some jurisdictions, a mandatory point added to your driving record. Now here's something that a lot of people don't realize is also connected to intersection safety, and that's the updated rules around rolling stops, commonly known as the California roll or a rolling right turn on red. For years, many drivers treated a slow roll through a stop sign as acceptable, especially in low traffic areas or when turning right at a red light. Law enforcement agencies across multiple states have been given updated directives to enforce complete stops more strictly starting this March. A complete stop means 0 miles per hour. Your vehicle must come to a full and complete halt before proceeding. Dashcam footage from police vehicles is increasingly being used as evidence in these citations, so the days of sliding through a stop sign without consequence are becoming much more difficult. Let's shift now to something that affects a huge number of drivers every single day, and that's phone and distraction laws. Now you might be thinking, we've had distracted driving laws for years, what's new? And you'd be right that these laws have existed, but what's changed is the enforcement technology and the penalty structure. Several states have now deployed what are called passive detection systems at major intersections and highway entry points. These are camera-based systems that can detect whether a driver is holding or actively using a handheld device while behind the wheel. You don't need to be pulled over for an officer to see it anymore. The camera catches it, the system flags it, and a citation can be mailed directly to the registered owner of the vehicle. Fines for first-time handheld device violations in states with these new systems start at $250 and climb to over $400 for repeat offenses within an 18-month period. In states like Georgia, Oregon, and Washington, a third offense within 2 years can now trigger a mandatory defensive driving course requirement and a temporary license suspension. And while we're talking about things happening outside the car that you need to be aware of, let's discuss school zones and construction zones, because the penalty structures in these areas have been significantly increased across nearly every state. In school zones, the updated enforcement windows have also been expanded. It used to be that school zone speed limits applied during specific morning and afternoon windows when children were arriving or leaving. Many states have now extended school zone enforcement to cover any time school-related activities are taking place, including after-school programs, weekend events, and summer school sessions. The signs in these areas are being updated. But in the meantime, the safest approach is to treat any school zone posting as active anytime you pass through it, regardless of the time of day. Construction zone fines have also doubled in over 30 states, with first-time speeding violations in an active construction zone now carrying base fines of $500 or more in many areas. Now let's talk about something that is going to be particularly relevant to drivers who have been licensed for many years, and that involves license renewal requirements. This is an area where changes vary quite a bit from state to state, but the overall direction is very clear. States are implementing updated vision testing standards, and some are introducing road knowledge reassessment requirements for drivers renewing after a certain age or after a lapse in their renewal. This does not mean that older drivers are being targeted unfairly. The vision standard updates apply to all drivers. But practically speaking, the new minimum vision requirements are stricter than what was in place when many long-time license holders originally passed their tests. If your last vision exam for driving purposes was several years ago, it would be worth visiting your eye doctor before your next renewal to make sure your current prescription meets the updated standards. Some states are also requiring that corrective lens restrictions on licenses be verified and updated during renewal, meaning if your eyesight has changed, your license restrictions need to reflect that. There's also been a major update to the rules around driving under the influence of prescription medication. And this is an area where many otherwise responsible drivers find themselves in a vulnerable position without realizing it. The updated DUI framework in several states now includes a broader definition of impairment that encompasses legally prescribed medications, particularly those with warnings about drowsiness, dizziness, or impaired reaction time. Officers are now trained with updated protocols to assess medication-related impairment, and the legal standard for what constitutes impairment behind the wheel has shifted in ways that put the burden more clearly on the driver to ensure they are fit to drive regardless of whether a substance is legal or prescribed. If you take medications that carry these kinds of warnings, a conversation with your doctor about driving safety is no longer just a good idea. In some states, being pulled over while on such medications and showing any signs of impaired driving can now result in a DUI charge even if alcohol is not involved. Let's also touch on electric vehicles because whether or not you drive one, these vehicles are affecting the rules of the road for everyone. EV charging zones are now legally designated no parking areas in many municipalities, and blocking a charging station, even briefly, carries fines comparable to blocking a fire hydrant in several cities. More broadly, updated regulations around silent vehicle detection mean that pedestrian safety rules near low-speed electric vehicles have also been clarified. If you drive an electric or hybrid vehicle that operates quietly at low speeds, there are now federal requirements that your vehicle emit a warning sound at speeds below 19 miles per hour. If your vehicle was manufactured after a certain date and isn't producing this sound, it may be worth checking with your dealer, as compliance with this federal standard is now being verified during some state vehicle inspections. Here's the bigger picture that ties all of these changes together. The roads in 2026 are not the same environment they were in 2010 or even 2018. They are more complex, more monitored, and governed by a more detailed set of rules than at any point in American driving history. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. These changes are genuinely designed to keep people safer. But they only protect you if you know about them. The drivers who are going to face fines, points on their records, and potential license issues in the coming months are not necessarily reckless drivers. Many of them are going to be experienced, careful drivers who simply weren't aware that the standards had changed around them. So the single most important thing you can take away from everything covered here today is this. Knowing the current law is part of being a safe and responsible driver, just as much as checking your mirrors and wearing your seatbelt. The laws covered in this video are real. They are in effect right now, and they apply to you regardless of how long you've been driving or how clean your record has been. Stay informed, stay current, and stay safe out there.